happy Friday. That's right. Today is Friday. Oh, the week is over and I'm broken. So bear with me. But today we have something so special. You don't want to go anywhere. We're going to be talking to the great Kyle Mills, fantastic author in his own right. But for the last 10 years, he's been writing the Mitch Rapp series from Vince Flynn. So don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss this. We'll be right back. So stay right there.
Previously on the Nerdy Ronin Network.
Hey, Squeaky. So quite a few people have been asking me, what happened to your arm? Huh? I thought I better tell you the story, bro. So I was driving through town. It was a very congested area of town around Main Street. And there were just cars whizzing by all over the place. And as I was driving by, there was this really sweet little old lady trying to cross the road. She had a cane. She was hobbling along. And the cars weren't stopping. So I stopped to help her. And at first, she thought I was attacking her, and she smacked me like 3 times on my right arm with her cane. And I told her, I was like, I'm just trying to help you across the street. You know, I'm a big dude, so people started stopping when I helped her. And finally, she let me help her. You know, I was just trying to help. I get her across the street. Alright, and then I have to zigzag through traffic to get back to the car. Get in the car. And I took off. She said thank you. It was sweet. And then I went to the hospital and had carpal tunnel release surgery. So that's what happened. Yeah. All right. Oh boy, the work week is over. It is Friday. That's right, Fri-Yay. This is one of the greatest days of the week, of course. And we are here with all of you, and we're glad you're here. Today we are talking to a fantastic author, Kyle Mills. Man, I am so excited. Now look, he's busy, so I've asked him 8 questions, get right to the point, and he was nice enough to answer them. If you don't know who Kyle Mills is a fantastic author. He has written some great books. And I've known of him for a while, but when I learned of him, it was because he took over writing Mitch Rapp for the late Vince Flynn, another amazing author. And when he took over, Vince Flynn had written 3 pages of his newest book, and Kyle Mills took over and took those 3 pages. And to this day, as far as I know, nobody knows what 3 pages in that book were Vince's and what's Kyle's. So, in my opinion, did a great job. And as a big fan of the Vince Flynn novels prior to Kyle Mills taking over, I have to say, for 10 years now, I have truly enjoyed Kyle Mills' work. And he has done a service in the name of Vince Flynn and taken his characters and wrote them just as well as Vince Flynn did. And I was lucky enough to... I've talked to him several times. First off, he sent me an autograph. Like, he's just a good guy. Generally good guy. And so when I asked him if he'd be up to being interviewed, he was down. And I appreciated that. It was awesome. It took us a little time to get everything together, and because my $300 potato computer can't I can't interview him live, I emailed him the questions, and I'm going to ask them, and then we will look at his responses. So, it's a little weird, but we really appreciate him, and if you have not read any of his stuff, please rectify that. We also talk about the movie that was made based on one of Vince Flynn's books. And I asked him the age-old question to give me 5 movies he loves and why. It's there. It's in the interview. So you don't want to miss. This is going to be a little bit of a longer video. But don't you worry. It's going to be great. And so without further ado, we're going to get into the first question. The first question was, did you know Vince Flynn prior to his passing? And how did you find the situation of taking over? Like, how did you find that happening, and how did that go? So that's the first question. Let's hear what he has to say about it.
No, I didn't really know Vince. In passing, we swapped a couple of emails and he had blurbed one of my books. But yeah, taking him over was a little bit of a challenge. I got a call. It kind of came out of the blue from my agent asking me if it might be something I was interested in. I wasn't sure I was. Obviously, taking over somebody that's, as famous and beloved as Vince is kind of a big deal. But I talked to his agent and kind of threw some ideas out there, and he liked them. I told him I wasn't really committed to them because sometimes it doesn't look as good on the page as it does just, talking about them, but that I would do something along those lines. And I honestly didn't think I'd get the job because that seems a little non-specific, really. But they said yes and gave me kind of free hand as to what to do with it. And, it worked out. It was a challenging book to write. I really wanted to make it feel very much like a sequel to The Last Man. And Vince had written 3 pages already, and I wanted no one to really know which of the pages were his and which were mine. And, fortunately, nobody's ever figured it out. So it worked.
Question 2. As a famous author already, did you find it difficult stepping into the shoes of Vince Flynn, considering he had done so much world building already?
Yeah, it was a little weird. The strange thing is that I don't really have a writing style that's anything like Vince's, and my stories and characters too, were really different than Vince's. In a way, that was better. I thought that would be a real challenge in the beginning, but it was much easier for me to notice when I was slipping into my own voice and out of Vince's and trying to write my own book and not one of his, than it would have been if I wrote in a really similar style to him.
Question number 3. Vince Flynn was quite open about his political leanings and opinions on America, especially how our government was run and the corruption in Washington, D.C. I'm sure that guided his writing and his characters and the world that he overall created. Was it difficult to set aside your own opinions and beliefs to write that world as he wrote it?
So obviously Vince was a really conservative guy politically, but I wouldn't say his books ever came off as particularly partisan to me. He didn't really harp on Democrats versus Republicans. They were pretty, themes that were pretty universal of good and evil. Obviously, he didn't like politicians very much. I'm maybe not as hard on politicians because I think they do what they need to do in order to be elected. So, to the degree that the American people get lousy politicians, it's their own fault.
Question 4. I've seen some authors fail taking over another author's series because they want to write it like themselves. How was it writing with someone else's biases and such? Like, was that difficult for you, or did you find that difficult?
Vince had a really strong voice. That's what people liked about his books, I think. You knew Mitch Rapp. You knew what a Mitch Rapp thriller was going to give you. People loved them. I loved them as a fan. So, yeah, I knew what I was getting into when I started writing those books. I knew that, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Vince was a great storyteller and a great writer. And if I was going to take it on, I had to sort of set my own ego aside and write his books. So I introduced new things to them. it was kind of necessary because as time goes on, the world changes, America changes, and you have to keep up with that because thrillers are interesting because they're in the moment. But I always tried to imagine what Vince would have done, what he would have written about, if he had been writing the book at the time that I was writing it. So I didn't really find it all that hard to set aside my own kind of biases and my own voice. I think it was kind of a fun challenge, really.
So what made you decide it was time to move on from Mitch Rapp, and was that a hard decision?
It was a hard decision. This is the best job I ever had, I think. It really, I just felt as though I had kind of finished my era with Mitch Rapp. It felt like I'd taken him through an entire arc. That he had started as this very angry, frustrated person who was really alone in the world to some extent. And he's gone through, a lot. He's gone through a lot during the 10 years I've had him. But now he's in a different place. America's in a different place. He has, a relationship. He's matured a little bit. Is a little bit more philosophical about what he's done and his place in the world. And the question was, did I want to, start anew and take him through another entire 9-book arc, or was it time to hand him over to somebody else who has a fresh perspective? And I thought that maybe served the series to let somebody else take a shot at it, and then I could move on and write something kind of different and have a new challenge. So yes, very hard decision. I may wake up sometimes wondering if I made a horrible mistake, but I think that Don Bentley, who's taken it over, is going to do a great job.
How was the experience of seeing Hollywood put a character that you are writing on screen? Was it an overall good or bad experience?
The movie, yeah, that was kind of funny. I don't know anything about movies. So I don't write scripts. I don't hobnob with Hollywood at all. And I remember they had finished filming and I was about to go out on tour, and I knew everybody was going to ask me what about the film. I hadn't seen any of it. I didn't know anything about it. And so I'm really naive about the industry. And I told them, well, why don't you just Dropbox me the film, whatever the file of the film, and so I can watch it and I can talk about it on the road. And boy, let me tell you how secretive they are. It's like the CIA, but worse. The security's heavier. So they said no, they couldn't do that, but they would fly somebody out to Jackson Hole, where I live, and rent out a theater for it. And that's what they did. So apparently the films are imprinted to the projection camera. So they can't be used on any other camera. They come in I don't know, I swear to God, a briefcase with a handcuff on it. This woman came, they set it up, the whole theater was empty. Me and my wife went, they had the popcorn guy was there. We got popcorn and a Coke. We went in there, we were the only people in the theater, and we watched the movie. And then they took it and flew back to LA an hour later. So really interesting experience. And also, I really liked the movie. I thought the actors did an amazing job. It was really fun, particularly to see Mitch on screen. I thought Dylan did just really nailed it. And, keeping in mind that Mitch was really young then, they were about the same age at the time. So, really, really fun, but I don't think you can necessarily, I think it's a mistake to equate it too much to the books. Hollywood does their thing, you do your thing. I think Vince was the one that once described Hollywood as a giant wall. You throw your book over, they throw a bag of money over, and that's the end of your relationship. I think that's probably a good way to think about it.
We discuss a lot here about Hollywood. trying to destroy themselves. So it seems placing messaging over story. And so I will ask you the same question I ask everyone when I talk to them. What are 5 movies throughout any time in cinema that you enjoy, and why?
5 movies. That's a tough one because there are so many amazing movies for so many reasons, and different categories. So I'll narrow it down to ones that I find kind of inspiring from a writing standpoint. The Outlaw Josie Wales is a huge one for me when writing Mitch Rapp, because that's kind of the way I see him. He's this stoic lone gunman who's just steel nerves, better than everybody else, and people are terrified of him. And that's one of his advantages, is people are so afraid of him that they might make mistakes. I love that movie. Some of the best lines in the world. And yeah, we should all aspire to write a line like, lion ain't much of a living boy. Jaws. I remember seeing it in the theater when I was super young, like in first grade or something. And that is a masterclass on how to build suspense. It's perfect, like in every way. You just can't beat that. Creating suspense without really ever kind of seeing the shark hardly. It's just amazing movie. Alien, I think, for a similar reason. I mean, it takes a page out of Jaws, doesn't it? That the suspense is absolutely unbearable, but you don't really see much of the monster ever. Also, to speak to the messaging thing, there's a masterclass on how to create an incredible female action character. Ripley is just as badass as any person that's ever been put on the screen, but she did it with humanity and great character, and it didn't rely on her being tougher and faster than some 300-pound mercenary, because nobody was going to go hand to hand with the alien. It was perfect. Here's a weird one, Shaun of the Dead, a movie that just blew me away. I'm a huge zombie fan, but what that movie did was everything in one movie. It was scary, it was heartbreaking, it was funny, it had really real feeling relationships between people. That movie succeeded on every possible level that I can't think of another example of a movie like that. You think, oh, greatest movie ever, Godfather. Yeah, but it wasn't funny. The last one would be maybe The Seven Samurai. That's my favorite movie of all time, I think. Just the perfect movie. Also, beautifully filmed, beautifully acted, incredible action sequences. But what inspires me as a writer from that one is to take that many characters and give them all their own personalities and universes. There's not a single person in that one that feels secondary. And I always try to do that in the context of Mitch Rapp. Scott Coleman would be an example of kind of a secondary character when I took him on, but that I wanted to make much richer and to become somebody that people knew and that had his own very strong personality. So there are a million movies that I could talk about that I love and that I find really inspiring, but those kind of speak specifically to things I think about when I'm writing one of these books. And actually, in fact, this is a little off the subject, but a scene I once wrote where Mitch was killing a bunch of cartel people, I wrote from Mitch's point of view, and it was in the jungle and around this house out in the middle of nowhere. And then I realized that in a way it was kind of a teen horror flick, that he was the monster. And so I rewrote it from the point of view of the guy he was really going after. And if you ever read that scene, it very much reads like Friday the 13th. But that was probably with Mitch being Jason. But that was probably the most movie-inspired scene I ever wrote.
Finally, what's next for you? Are you relieved to be done with Rapp? Are you going to miss that world and its characters?
Yeah, am I relieved to be done with Rapp? I don't know. I'm relieved to have gone out on top. The book, people really loved the last book, Code Red. It went out as #1 New York Times bestseller. I'd never want to write a bad one. I'd never want to phone one in. I feel like I gave every one of those books my all, and people really liked them. So, probably better to leave before you fall on your face, I guess. What's next? I have a character called Fade that I wrote about years ago, and I've been thinking about him ever since. He was a character that really got under my skin. My fans loved him. I still get emails about him. And I really wanted to continue with him and, add to that universe. So I've been dreaming about it for years, for like a decade, and now I'm finally doing it. So it's kind of a lot of fun. It's a very similar genre. He's a similar type of character in the sense that he has the same skill set as Mitch Rapp, but has a very different personality. And it allows me to talk about some modern, some really modern themes like technology and kind of the breakdown of American politics and things like that in a way that maybe wouldn't have been right for a Mitch Rapp book.
Cal, we really appreciate that you took the time to hang out with us and answer our questions. I know it was weird to do it this way, and I apologize. I would love to sit down and have a cup of coffee with you and just talk for hours. You seem to really have like a great thought process when it comes to storytelling and what you do. And I was really intrigued and interested in what you had to say about Hollywood and the different movies, and they're fantastic. It was a great job, right? And we really do appreciate it. And if any of you have never read any of Cal Mills's stuff, you're making a horrible error. So you need to read his books as well as the Vince Flynn novels if you haven't already. Mitch Rapp is a great character and fantastic on all fronts. So, hey, it's been a different one today, but we appreciate everybody showing up and watching. Reach out to Kyle and tell him how much you appreciate him if you have read his stuff or if you just found him today here on our channel. So, all right, I gotta go. My arm and hand is killing me. Sorry, this was a little different. For a couple of weeks, it's going to be like this. I'm broken, but I'm going to get better. All right, you guys have a great weekend, and I'm excited to see what we're doing next week, and you will be too. So, for Michael, the microphone, Bob, squeaky chair in the back, and this fat book nerd, we'll see you on Monday. Thank you.